Guys, it's great to see you. It's been an awfully long time.
Yeah,
great to see you
Great to see you too, John.
And the passage of time goes by so quickly. You think of it, for you and Getty, Alex, it's been 42 years. And here you are. You're probably bigger than you've ever been, doing what you love. Do you ever pinch yourself and say, how did we get so lucky?
Yeah, we'll often look at each other and shake our heads and go, well, we fooled him again.
Once we get over the fact that we're still hanging around with each other after 40 years, it's it's pretty amazing.
And then still having an audience, too. I mean, the fact that we can say, okay, we'll go out on tour this summer, but some other people made that decision, too, and thought they would tour this summer. And, of course, it's difficult times for a lot of customers, and we've been very lucky in that. The response in numbers and enthusiasm from the audiences is, that's what we'll look out at the audience sometimes and look at each other. It's like, why are these people here? You know? That's when we're fooling them.
So why do you think they are here so many years later?
I don't know. It's something in
There's
the
no humble way to answer it.
I know. Well, let's show me a little hubris here.
They like us. It's amazing. I think it's a combination of things that have happened over the last few years that have kind of reignited Rush fans. And I think obviously this documentary that came out this year, which seems to be very popular, has brought renewed interest in us. And our hardcore fans are always here, and then this year touring and bringing moving pictures in its entirety to the show has really excited a lot of fans too. So I think a combination of things.
One thing that I marked out is when we look out and see people that care so much about what we do, you can't help but care about it more. You know, just the fact that it's a kind of responsibility, that dedication. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's an automatic response to want to live up to it. So that forces us to make each show as if it's the last one we're ever going to do, and the audience senses that dedication. I think so. It's a feedback. It's a loop, really, that we feel inspired by what they give us, and they're inspired by what we give them. So,
do you find that too, Alex? That sense of responsibility that you can pack out all of these places. There's not a seat to be had in Atlanta. There are people waiting out front for somebody who'll sell them a ticket. Do you feel like, wow, we've got all these people out there. We really owe it to them to keep going here and do the best that we possibly can?
Certainly we feel that, but I think we feel a responsibility to ourselves to put on the best show and play as well as we absolutely can.
It's old showbiz stuff, but really you do feel only as good as your last show.
Yeah.
And if I feel I hadn't played well last night, then tonight will be my chance to make up for that. And I'll have been down on myself during all that interim time. But the next one you'll have, that's the great thing about touring and playing live, you have another chance to get it right.
There isn't but a handful of bands who have made it as long as you guys have. Getty, what do you think is the magic that has allowed you to do that? Is it the fact that you and Alex were high school buddies who grew up with the same musical influences, wanted to do the same thing? I know that Neil is still the new guy.
That's right.
A mere 36 years. But my theory is that we all make the same number of mistakes, so nobody can get mad at each other, or there can't be factions forming. You know, if somebody has a bad night, somebody else has a bad night the next night, and we all feel kind of an equal basis that way, where there's never any competition about it.
Yeah, the strange truth is that we like each other, and for some ridiculous reason, we still enjoy what we do tremendously, and we like the music that we're making together. And it kind of begins and ends with that. So when we get into rehearsals, or we're planning a tour, or we're planning something, we have a good time, and we kind of still believe in what we're doing, and we keep wanting to push the boundaries of what our abilities allow us to do.
Also, we're equally handsome, so ego doesn't get in the way.
The same number of girls are equally impressed by our vision every night.
When everybody is as handsome as everybody else, there are no egos.
That's exactly.
Everybody's a lot of band breakups.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Everybody's on the same plane. Yeah. But I talked to Bono about this. I talked to Stuart Copeland from the Police about it. And Bono says the reason why you two have stayed together all these years is because they were mates in high school. They grew up together. Stuart Copeland says the reason the Police did not stay together was because they were three established musicians who came together from three disparate backgrounds and tried to make it work. So is that background that you were kids together?
Well, like a marriage, to be friends first is an awful big advantage.
Yeah.
Certainly with Alex and I, we go back so far that we've got this friendship that we're stuck to each other forever. Regardless of what we're doing, we'll be hanging around with each other.
You can have some other job.
You can finish each other's sentences.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
But the choice of music for this tour was interesting because we had two new songs, and we really wanted to do a fresh presentation of old songs. So as we exchanged emails going up about getting excited about picking up a song from this, that'd be fun. There was real enthusiasm right from the beginning of the choice of songs alone, and then to start playing them and be so, that sounds better than it did when we recorded it, 30 years ago in some cases.
One of the things that people always mention when they talk about Rush is that you have not compromised. You've never compromised. It hurt you with albums like Caress of Steel, and you said in the documentary, you thought your career was over, but what has allowed you to not compromise, to not give in to pressures of the music industry? Because that is why this band is so respected.
Well, the audience, again, it goes back to what I was saying before. You know, they're a closed loop. That we make music that we like. Getting said, and that's number one, and then the audience likes it too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's people say, well, why haven't you sold out? He said, well, what we do, enough people like it anyway. As weird as it is, enough people like it that keep us going, and the fact that we want to do a tour and then they all show up for us. I mean, it's quite amazing, and they're the reason that we've had all this success for so many years. They keep coming back. They're massive.
Despite our best efforts to scare them away.
Yeah, and on our own terms. It's always been on our own terms.
How have you managed to make it on your own terms for all these years?
Well, I think with 2112, that sort of bought our freedom from pressures from the record company and from management. I think they all stood back and said, well, I guess these guys know
whatever they're doing.
Whatever they're doing, they're selling records, and that makes us happy, so therefore let's leave them alone. And as Neil's pointed out, we have the audience that wants to listen to the music that we want to write. So it's quite simple, really, and you just follow your.
It's a miracle, but it's a simple one.
Yeah. And also, our management's been wise enough to keep everyone else at bay and say to them, look, these guys are doing what they want to do. People are coming to see them, so just let them do it. And that's a godsend for us. Yeah.
But it's so far from where it was in the early days. I remember interviewing Ray in 1980, and he said, we were begging anybody who would possibly listen to us to please give us a record deal.
Yeah.
And now look at where you are.
Yeah. But I bet you today, if we were starting all over again, we wouldn't get a record deal either.
And that's been true decade to decade, as conditions have changed.
There have been so many bright years with Rush, and then, of course, there were the dark years as well in the late 1990s. The hiatus lasted for almost 5 years. What brought you back to the band? Was there a time when you thought to yourself, I'm done with the music business, I'm done with this?
Yeah, surely, but eventually what you love trumps what you hate. I guess that's the only thing to say about that.
How happy were you when you got the phone call that Neil said, look, I think I want to come back?
Yeah, I'm just always happy to get a phone call from him, but
it
was a tough period, but I knew that the guy's a consummate professional musician, and you can only go so long without doing what you do, doing what you love to do. So I was very happy to hear from him. Sure.
Alex, did you think that things were over at that period?
Well, I didn't really think about any of that. It was a very quiet, dark time, and you just did whatever you did. And if things came around, they came around, and if they didn't, they didn't.
Right. It was family time.
Yeah, it was a family time, exactly, and that was the most important part of it. The band didn't even matter at that point.
I can't imagine how tough a period that was.
On to happier subjects.
Yeah. On to happier subjects. One thing that you did during that time was you took a motorcycle ride that went from, I think, Alaska down to Panama. Did you ever get to South America?
No, I came through Belize. It was when the terrible hurricane hit in the Gulf Coast and Guatemala, and I was trying